So in terms of negotiating a fair deal, a couple of things here. The biggest mistake that people make is they sign a contract with a venue, they give the deposit, and then they talk to the in-house vendors and get their quotes, fall off their chair that they're so high. Maybe they'll complain to the venue, but at that point it's too late. It's too late because the venue has your money, they have you in contract, and there's really not much incentive for them to help you out. So what you need to do is to understand what your needs are going to be from a given vendor before you book the venue. Before is the operating word there. And what you want to do is make sure that you negotiate the vendor deal at the same time that you book the venue. And you need to make the venue understand that they're getting your money and they're getting your contract is hinged on you getting a fair rate from the vendor. And the best way to do that is to present alternative bids from competitors. This seems to work the best every time. So if you are going to a venue and you have to use XYZ in-house audiovisual company, before you book, know what your needs are going to be. You know, what kind of projector your needs are going to have, screens, etc., sound system, lighting, what have you. Get that information organized, and then even though you can't bring in other vendors, get bids from them. If you were to bring that equipment and those technicians into that venue, if you could, what would it come in at? Then you go to the venue person and say, look, I want to book my piece of business here. You know, you and I are good on the pricing. However, I'm going to get killed when I have to, you know, produce the technical ends of my event, and I have to use your in-house vendor. And here's proof that they're coming in way above the market. Now, at that point, you can use the fact that the vendor cares about the venue more than you to your advantage. You can have the venue lean, apply pressure on the vendor to come down in price. And that has worked. We've had a lot of success with that over the 20 or so years that I ran my event company. This was the only thing that really, at the end of the day, worked, was the threat of moving a piece of business away from a venue. And again, this has to be done before you sign a contract, or even before you 100% sort of commit to the venue. Because the last thing a venue is going to want to do is lose a piece of business because their in-house vendor is charging too much money. So again, it has to happen beforehand. Now, part of what you're going to have to be able to do is understand, you know, comparing one proposal with another proposal. Now, catering, you know, flowers, etc., you might be able to figure out. A lot of times when you deal with technical gear, whether it's lighting, sound, projection, etc., most planners don't really know whether they're getting the right projector or whether they're just getting a projector that this venue has, you know, in his closet. Whether you're getting backup projectors that are appropriate, whether the backup projectors will be synchronized or not. You know, if you don't know to compare apples and apples, you can't necessarily tell if you're getting, you know, the right price point that's being compared with. You know, if as an example, if your outside bid that you're getting to show a competitive bid shows a certain level of equipment and the in-house vendor shows you a certain level of equipment that's not appropriate but less expensive, you know, that definitely puts a kink into it. And if you don't know too much about this, I highly recommend, you know, not to plug our own stuff, but we have spent a lot of time, you know, working on the classes in our technical production section, particularly with Audio 101 and display technology. Will give you a lot of insight into how to understand what kind of gear you're getting. Now with lighting, I want to get into lighting for a quick second here. You know, lighting often is a tricky thing, in part because many people book venues based on photos of the venues online or in their portfolio. And it's important to understand what lighting you're getting and what lighting you're going to have to pay separately for. In a lot of places, they provide certain basic lighting, and other additional lighting is up to you. So lighting tends to fall into two categories. There's, you know, design lighting, which is aesthetic, which is what I'll call nice to have, the stuff that makes the room look pretty. And then there's functional lighting, which is sort of the need to have. In many cases, design lighting, some venues, for example, there's a number of ballrooms I know of in major cities where uplighting is provided as part of the room rental. In some places, they provide a ceiling wash. You know, in this picture, which is the Museum of Natural History, you know, that ceiling wash is huge. You can see the blue ceiling is a lot of light fixtures to make it look like that. And that is not included, I can guarantee that. But in some cases, there's a dome or some architectural features that the washes are included. The pin spots are usually not, and it's important to bear that in mind. If you look at this picture, you can sort of see that you know, every table has a little glow on the inside of it, and that's from pin spotting. You know, and that's usually not included. So it's important to know from a design standpoint what you're going to have to pay for separately. But even more important is functional lighting to cover things like your check-in table and your auction table. And you know, I'll tell you right now, and you know, I've gone through this the hard way in many cases for a number of years ago, where you'll set up your check-in table with your lists and your name tags or your escort cards, and if people can't read that because it's too dark, you know, that's obviously a big problem, and that's the first impression people make. Same thing if you've got an auction, a silent auction, where people are bidding on items. The items need to be lit. The bid sheets need to be lit. And again, those are usually you know, Lecos or sometimes pin spots. But at the end of the day, a lot of these cultural venues, a lot of these alternative venues don't have the ability to light those things. You know, most modern hotels, that kind of lighting is included. There's a lot of lighting options at these venues, but sometimes, you know, these things that you might assume are there are not there. So again, make sure that what you see in the picture is what you're going to get, and if you're not going to get it, go in up front knowing what that's going to be.